Okay. The next question will start with Mr. Moody, and it is as follows. Few people would say that Bangor wouldn't benefit from a new public arena and convention complex, but the real debate is over cost-benefit analysis. Given that such facilities always require some kind of public subsidy to build, is constructing such a facility a good use of state and or local taxpayer dollars?
Disrespectful to Bangor, I've got a saying, I'll share it with you, is a lot of people, and they're right, I mean, we've gotten questionnaires from, it's amazing how many interest groups, I won't say special, but kind of interest groups there are in Maine that are looking at the budget deficit and saying, hey, what about us? You know, where are our priorities? So I have a saying. It goes like this. A lot of people are tuned in to a station called WIFM, What's in It for Me? And we've reached a threshold here now in this state where we got to tune into what's in it for Maine. So it doesn't matter if it's a union contract, an initiative proposal, or something as significant as a sports complex or arena in the Bangor community. We've got to look at it in the context of what's in it for Maine. We've got to reach outside of our own kind of small circles, if you will. We're in that mode right now, almost in a crisis mode, where we've got to band together and look at what that capital investment is and really study and research it to say, is this something that's going to benefit Maine as a whole? And it very well may. But I think that's the considerations. We've got to look beyond, we've got to become more selfless than selfish. That's the key to bringing this together and moving the state forward across the board. Look at unfunded pension liabilities. You look at these things that are very sobering and stark. The only way we're going to solve these things if we can step outside of our special interest, if you will, and look at the greater good for everybody. Shared sacrifice, shared commitment is going to get a shared result. So I'm a big advocate of what's in it for Maine.
Okay. Senator Mitchell.
I apologize. Would you repeat the question?
Sure. Few people would say that Bangor wouldn't benefit from a new public arena and convention complex, but the real debate is over the cost-benefit analysis.
Okay.
Given that such facilities always require some kind of public subsidy to build, is constructing such a facility a good use of state and or local taxpayer dollars?
Thank you for repeating that, and I apologize. I'll take it out of that time you gave up earlier. The fact that there always is required a state and a local and a private partnership to get anything well done built is a given. The cost-benefit analysis, I have not had a privilege of looking at here for the Bangor area, nor do I know how important it is. I have heard about it for years. I do think that it is important to think of new ways to finance. There needs to be, I'm sure if the city is committed to doing that, we might need to explore other financing options we've never had in this state, and I'm not sure that we're ready for it yet, but we should be able to talk about local option taxes if that's what the people would be interested in doing. But it does cost money. And if there's a dividend paid back through tourism, we talked about that earlier, or job growth, or building, then certainly it should be considered. But it should not be driven by the state level. It should be driven by this local community to see if they believe it is going to be one of the most important things to drive economic development here in the Bangor area. I would be open to all the options that make sense on a cost-benefit analysis, looking at new options that we may not have explored before.
Okay. Mr. LePage.
I certainly believe it's an admirable project, and it's something that if you can afford it and you have money in the bank and the state can help, I certainly would look at it very seriously. But the next governor is facing $1 billion deficit in the budget, $4.4 billion shortfall in the retirement system, another $3.5 to $4 billion in deferred maintenance on our roads, bridges, ports, and railroad. I can't envision participating in the next biennium in providing funds for a new arena in Bangor.
Okay. Mr. Cutler.
Well, obviously I can't either, much as I'd like to. I tell people all over the world that Bangor is the biggest city of 30,000 people ever, because it's all right here and it's all right here. It's how we think about ourselves in Bangor. And I can't recall a single investment that Bangor's made that hasn't paid off, and I'm sure this would. But I'm afraid Paul's right. we're not going to be able to identify state monies in the next biennium. There may be policy changes that we can make that will help the city, and I would commit to trying to figure those out. But I want to just, step away just for a minute from this conversation we've been having about tax credits and tax breaks and assistance and so forth. Our biggest problem in the state of Maine is that it costs too much to live and do business here. And until we focus on how we get the price of electricity and energy down, and how we get the price of health care down, and how we get the price of delivering public services to ourselves down, till we change the environment, the conditions in Maine that create this cost structure, capital investment's not going to flow into Maine. It's going to continue to flow out of Maine. And until we fix our regulatory and our tax structures, which we have to do in order to make it possible to achieve predictability and timeliness in terms of getting approvals for projects, capital investment's not going to flow into Maine. And this is something we all have to do together. We have to change these conditions. We have to get together and figure out exactly what strategies and plans will do it. And if you go to Cutler2010.com, you're going to see detailed plans for doing all of those things. And you ought to read them, and you ought to make choices among us based on what you learn about the plans that each of us have to do what I think is the single most essential challenge facing us in Maine today.
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, the question is, would that be a good use of local or state tax dollars? Absolutely. It's Government 101. This is the intention of what bonding is for, is the public good. That which is an investment in Maine. So you're looking at a scenario where, and really, somebody check me on this and get back to me, would you please, at kevin@mainsbestchoice.com. Prior to property tax here in the state of Maine, we had, you have your mill rate in your local community. Your mill rate is your tax on your home. That derives from millage rate, which in the original structure of communities and towns, when you did something for the public good, a mill, for example, a grist mill or a lumber or sawmill back in the 1800s, everybody paid a millage on that to make that a possibility for that community. So that's the very essence of what public bonding and public funding is about. Now then, if you want to look at creative realities in how we go about putting together a package that makes sense for everybody, what the return on investment is going to be from the private partner, what they're going to pay back, because we're not talking about granting anything here. And we're not talking about a giveaway. We're talking about making investments in the communities that are those that are going to grow and be vibrant and attract people. We need to invest in our state. We don't need to be afraid. Fear is not a good thing. And it's not really in my vocabulary, honestly. So with that said, absolutely, sure, that's, it's public policy 101. We need to have the courage to move forward in that direction, and I hope somebody will check me on that millage thing because it's coming from my historical recollection, and I'm pretty well certain that's how that was set up. And my site is mainsbestchoice.com. I'd like you to go there and take a peek, see. Thank you.
Okay.